everybody. This is the second video discussing mastering with a budget, essentially mastering for beginners. This week I'll be talking about the compression and EQ sides of things. I discussed limiting last week, so I'll link that in the description if you want to visit that. So I'm using the same 2 mix as my first video. It's a hard rock tune, instrumental. So that's how it sounds with these 3 components on there, limiting, compression, and EQ. So I'll go ahead and take those away. So big difference. You can see in the waveform the peaks are way louder, and you can hear that as well as soon as I took off the limiting and other gain-related processes. So I'll just start with the SSL plus compressor, which is what I like to use. It's important to use really good quality plugins on your master chain, and it's something that I really recommend that you invest in, because if you think about it, that's where all of the audio is passing through, and it needs to be something powerful and higher quality than a typical stock plugin could do, and something that could be pushed without causing possible damage or artifacts, because you're trying to preserve the quality of the mix that you worked so hard to get. So definitely do some research. I recommend SSL style compressors such as this. Waves has a lot of good things. There's a lot of different companies. I can go on and on. But yeah, so I like to have a slow attack and a fast release, because I'm trying to preserve the transients of the drum kit, but I don't want the mix to be suppressed and pushed down and stay at a low level, so the release needs to be kind of fast for me. And let me show you what I mean. The VU will describe it. So as you could already see there, when the release is slow, all it's doing is just lowering the level of your mix, as you can see on the VU there. So having a faster release lets the compressor return back to 0 and just act on those first initial dynamics in the mix. And the whole point of me doing this in general is to have a little bit of gain reduction. The needle barely moves, probably around -2. The whole idea is just to feel like everything is starting to gel together and glue together. Setting a threshold is based solely on how to achieve that minimal amount of gain reduction, where you start to hear the effect of everything starting to gel together without hearing this sense of pumping. And then a low ratio is also important for that too, maintaining that pretty low gain reduction. Start to hear that effect of everything starting to combine together, for lack of a better description. And again, I can demonstrate what a slower attack would do too. You'll get that, what they call pumping in the mix. Be a bummer to make your mix sound like that after putting all that work into it. So that's basically all there is to it for the compression side of things. Just keep it minimal and get the effect of everything starting to feel like it's all acting as one unit. So getting into the EQ here, this is a very subjective stage, and it depends entirely on not only what sort of aesthetic you're going for, what style of mix it is, or what your personal preference is, what bands you like. There's things that will affect what a good sounding mix sounds like to you. And that's also something that you should visit in your mix too, is something you should have tried to accomplish in that stage. But mastering is there to help you just do these fine-tuning moves to make it feel like it just has the right balance. One thing I do recommend for these genres, such as like rock, hard rock, metal, anything in between, is that you don't really need anything below about 30 hertz, I would say, because a whole basis behind a good sounding mix in that style is a really tight low end without any sort of flubbiness or unpredictability there, and that range and below tends to have a lot of that activity. It's not really a predictable area. It can create a lot of unintelligibility in the mix. Those frequencies also can get into your headroom, like before you limit. It's good to just make sure that that stuff's out of the equation, because it could start to hit the limiter and cause you some problems. So it's a clarity thing as well as a headroom thing. Keep in mind that those frequencies do exist and they're not necessary in this style. In other styles, you can argue that they are absolutely necessary, but we're trying to keep this low end tight and this whole dense arrangement sound as clear as possible. So moving on to the boosting and attenuating frequencies on your master, I tend not to exceed around 2 dB because I feel like that means you just have to revisit the mix and figure out what happened to make you need to make such drastic changes in the first place. And also, I tend not to boost. I tend to find things that I don't like and just get rid of them. And also, by getting rid of things you don't like and having makeup gain after that, you're essentially boosting all the things you do like. So I just don't see the point to boosting, in my opinion. So to find places I don't like, I tend not to go crazy with this. I like to keep pretty wide bandwidths, like a Q of 1 or so, unless there's something that's just really nasty and I have to notch EQ that out of there. I'll just give this mix a listen and just scan through and just find things that I feel like are building up. Maybe all the instruments kind of met in this one specific area and are just causing a buildup that's not good. Or maybe there's an aspect of harshness in like the 2 to 6K area that can be attenuated a little bit. That tends to happen a lot, especially in the genre of aggressive music. So I like to check a few sections in the song just to make sure that these places I find actually are a consistent thing and it's not just that moment. It's not good to jump the gun and get rid of something that's only bad in that section. That's another reason you need to revisit the mix. So there is a consistent build-up in these two places that I do not like personally. So I'm just going to dip them maybe about 1.5 dB. In my experience, 2 to 6K never fails to create something that is harsh and not pleasant. Usually from the guitars or the overheads or just like the really top end of the bass. Even the vocal mic can create these little resonant frequencies around there that can sound pretty harsh. I think the whole philosophy for this, at least for me, is to have this music sound really good even when it's turned up really loud. I really enjoy when things are really punchy and powerful and loud, but some mixes I can turn up and it just sound too harsh for me to be able to bear. Keeping it at that level for the whole song. So yeah, in this case, this mix only really needed these couple moves. Some mixes you might need to do a couple more moves. Cool, I'm gonna pop in the limiter as well, so let's hear all three. So yeah, that's basically it. I just wanted to illustrate that if you're on a budget and you're trying to do it yourself, these three elements, compression, EQ, and limiting, can really take you far. And obviously, mastering can be a much more complicated endeavor. There's things such as multi-band compression, mid-side EQ, tape saturation, plenty of other things. And in later weeks, I'll possibly discuss some of those more detailed moves. But anyways, I hope this was helpful, and thanks for watching.